Good evening, everybody. Coming into focus. There we are. It's good to be with you tonight. It is Sunday, the 7th of April. Hope you are having a good weekend, that you had a good weekend. I cannot believe that Monday is tomorrow. Fast weekend. Just drove back to Boise from Idaho Falls. Had a great weekend with the family. We got a lot done, and here I am in my East Idaho News hoodie. I know several of you asked about these. There are still some available if you're interested. We can put up the link. It's eastidahonews.com/shop. I seem to travel on these colder days, so I got to Boise and it's cold, but that's okay. It's not as cold as Eastern Idaho. We have a lot to talk about tonight, at least more than you'd think we would, based on the fact that we haven't been in court since Friday. But there are a couple of things that I've gotten so many emails about that I want to touch on tonight and kind of explain some of the background. I know so many of you are new to this case, or new to, not necessarily this case, but new to maybe this channel, wherever you're watching from, and you're wondering, what in the world have I been talking about? I'm going to move this microphone up just a moment here. Then I don't have to bend down so low. There we go. So we're gonna talk about just what this case is, what the Chad Daybell case is. I'm Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider. Every night during the Chad Daybell trial, we're going to break down what happened that day in court. We did this during Lori Vallow's trial exactly a year ago, and it was a little different then because cameras were not allowed in, and so I was kind of your eyes and ears, and every night I tell you what happened in court that day. There are cameras allowed in this one, but there's still a lot of questions as far as what terms mean and what happens, with different things in court. And so hopefully I can bring you some understanding and clarity as you watch. And tonight, here's what we're going to talk about. We have a big week ahead, and we are going to talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a weird day in court. Or I shouldn't say weird. I don't like that word. I tell my kids all the time, it's not weird, it's different. It's different. Tomorrow's going to be a different day in court. Then what? What happens after tomorrow? Mapping it all out. If you're not from Eastern Idaho, we're talking about a lot of places, a lot of agencies, a lot of prosecutors and jurisdictions, and why am I in Boise when it's 4 hours away? We're going to go through all that, so hang on. We'll try to bring clarity to you. We're going to take a closer look at two pivotal months in this investigation. And they were the month, well, I'll tell you about it in a minute, but two pivotal months where a lot happened. And I can guarantee you that during this trial, a lot of focus will be placed on what happened during those 2 months, because there's a lot of evidence. And we got our hands, at East Idaho News, we got our hands on a lot of it before it even hit the trial, before it even hit Lori's trial. We'll take a closer look at those two pivotal months here in just a couple of minutes. And then we're going to remember, of course, JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. So many of you are sending some wonderful photos of these three wonderful people and stories. And so I'm going to try my best to remember them, along with Charles. And your questions answered. If you've got questions, please let us know in the comments below what your questions are. Also, where you're watching from. It's so fun to see where all of you are from, and it's good to see that every day. Okay, so here's where we're at with the jury pool. 57 are in the pool. Last week we had a whole week of questioning. Every day groups were brought in. The final number was 57. 27 are women, 30 are men. So tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. Court is going to resume at 10 a.m., not 8:30 like normal, not 9, 10 a.m. For many of you, that's right when the eclipse is happening. It is. We don't have it here in Idaho, but do you have it where you are? We did have an eclipse in 2017. One of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life, a total eclipse, where it went, the path of totality went through Eastern Idaho, and it was amazing. Totally amazing. So if you're in the path, let us know and safely take photos tomorrow if you can. But I say this because court resumes at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And what will happen is there will be no live stream. Judge is not allowing a live stream tomorrow because all of these jurors are going to report to the courthouse, and they need to sit in the benches where the public has been sitting. And he does not want those jurors shown. There will not be a lot of audio, a lot of action. So if you're like really crushed that there's no cameras, you're really not missing much. And it should be over within an hour. It's super fast. So the jurors show up, the 57 of them, and then there are 16 preemptory challenges. That's what they're called on each side. Those are challenges or strikes where the prosecution doesn't need a reason, the defense doesn't need a reason. They simply can drop whatever jurors they want. Now, what is unclear to me, and the judge will hopefully explain this tomorrow, is they only need 50 jurors and then the 16 strikes. So 50 minus 16 puts us at 34, right? Yeah, 34 each. So 50 minus 32 puts us at 18. And that means that there's 12 jurors and 6 alternates that will be the final jury. I don't know what happens with those extra 7, and I hope I'm making sense to you. I don't know if in the morning that there might be some jurors that end up not flaking out, but I guess failing out, if you could call it that, where maybe they get into court and they're like, Judge, I went home and I did research the case, or my mother died over the weekend and I have a funeral I can't serve. So there's a 7 person buffer zone right there. But once the 50 are chosen, basically there's a list of all of their numbers, and the prosecution will look at the list. They'll cross one off. The bailiff will then walk it over to the defense. They'll cross one off. Back and forth, back and forth. Nobody talks. It goes pretty quick. At the end, the judge says, all right, well, the following numbers stand up or come up here, however he does it. You are the jurors. And then opening statements. So, but not tomorrow. We've been told the only thing happening tomorrow will be the preemptory challenges. So then what? Well, probably on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, there's opening statements. The prosecutor gets to get up and talk and really start out of the gate. You remember Lindsay Blake? I don't know if you did. And I think tomorrow or the next night, I want to play for you to remind us all what the opening statements were like in Lori Vallow's trial. Lindsay Blake did the opening statements in her trial. I'm told that Rob Wood will likely be doing the opening statements in this trial. But that could change. So Lindsay Blake did the opening statement, and basically said money, sex, power. This is what the case boils down to. And then she presented her argument as photos of the victims appeared on screen. And she repeatedly said, if anything got in the way of Lori Vallow getting money, sex, or power, they were gone. It was memorable. Money, sex, power. Then the defense attorneys will get up, attorney, singular, John Pryor, and he will make his opening statement. Jim Archibald did the opening statement in Lori Vallow's trial. He was more of a friendly, kind of getting to know you, folksy type of an opening statement. I don't know. We don't know what John Pryor will have. And after that, witnesses right away. Last time with Lori Vallow, it was the opening statements, and then boom, Kay Woodcock called to the stand. First off, got the grandmother on the stand, powerful emotional testimony, and then Brandon Boudreaux was after that. Along with witnesses, they will present evidence. They'll start showing these photos, the autopsy pictures that they've talked about. I think it was 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days into Vallow's trial that we started seeing these photos. And boy, they left a mark. They were definitely memorable. And they work toward a verdict, however long that takes. I think O.J. Simpson took 9 months. This one won't take 9 months. They're saying this one will take 8 to 10 weeks. But they'll go back and forth, the prosecutor and the defense. Once the prosecution rests, it's the defense's turn to present a case. In Lori Vallow's trial, they didn't have one. They didn't present one. They just said that they felt the state didn't meet their burden and rested. And then, of course, there's deliberations. So that's kind of how the next week will go. We don't know how many witnesses will be called. We don't know the order in which they'll be called. I mean, the prosecutor has to have some sort of idea because they have to arrange to get them here to Boise to testify. But it could be, you know, a week from today, we could have already had 10 witnesses on the stand or 4 witnesses on the stand. We'll track them all. There was 59 in Lori Vallow's case. There could be more. I think there will be more in this case. And I think it will be different. I think it will be a different trial. So many people have asked me that, but I think it will be different. So that's what we can look forward to for the coming week. Now, A question I've been getting a lot lately from a lot of the people who are new here is, can you explain the geography behind where all of these things happened? Like, why do you have a Fremont prosecutor and a Madison County prosecutor? Because in most cases, wherever you commit the crime, that is where you are charged. I'm in Boise right now. If I leave here tonight and go commit a crime, I'm going to get charged here and booked into jail here, even though I'm from Idaho Falls. It's not where you're based. Now, if you commit the crime in multiple places, it can be whoever arrests you. Wherever you're caught, they could hold you or they could send you back. Lori Vallow, of course, is now in Arizona in Maricopa County because she's accused of committing crimes there as well. So it's all based on jurisdiction. So I'm just going to start really above level and kind of dig deep here. First thing I want to show you, this is where Idaho is. Right up there, bordering Canada at the very tip top. You can see we border Canada. There are 1.9 million people in Idaho based on 2022's numbers. Here, as you may know, we are the leading producers of potatoes in America. That may be what we're most well known for is our potatoes. A third of all the potatoes in the United States are grown in Idaho. I did not know that until this morning when I was doing some research, but we have a third of all the potatoes. If you had a potato today, it likely came from here. You're welcome, even though I had nothing to do with it. All of our wonderful farmers did. There's some good spuds here. Okay, let me give you an idea of the populations of some of these places that are in the case. St. Anthony, Idaho is north of Rexburg. I'll show you in just a minute. The actual St. Anthony itself has 3,868 people. Small county. Rexburg has 40,462 people. So quite a bit more people live in Rexburg. Idaho Falls has 67,000 people. Now that is just Idaho Falls proper. Right next door to Idaho Falls is a city called Ammon, and they have maybe not that many, but they have a decent amount of people as well. Pocatello has 57,000. So you can kind of see an idea of how many people are in eastern Idaho, smaller communities. Boise, where I'm at now, 236,000 people. So you can add up St. Anthony, Rexburg, Idaho Falls, and Pocatello and still not reach the number of people in Boise. Thus, that is the reason, one of the reasons, probably the main reason, the judge moved the trial from eastern Idaho to Ada County, which is where Boise is, because there are far more people to find a jury, and there are far more people who just have not heard about this case because there's more happening over here. Okay, so here is a map of all of the counties in Idaho. I'm going to get my little pen here. Here, zoom right here. See that? That's Fremont County. Right up here is Montana. Yellowstone is right over here. Remember how Lori and Alex and the kids went to Yellowstone? It's right up here. Right here is Madison County. If you look at the space, Fremont County, as far as acres and physical, size, is much bigger than Madison, even though more people live in Madison. Bonneville County is where Idaho Falls is. Here, all the way over here is Ada County, where we are tonight. Interestingly enough, the city of Boise is not in Boise County. It's in Ada County. So the judge moved the trial all the way over here. For those of you asking about the Kohberger case, that took place up here in Latah County, up here in northern Idaho. From Idaho Falls to drive up here, it would take about 8 or 9 hours. It's not just a straight cut. There's mountains and everything. You have to go through this area. So this is kind of a diversion, but there was talk last week about Kohberger's trial maybe being moved. It could move down here to Ada because there's more people here, again, as we talked about. Or they even discussed moving it over here to Bonneville and Idaho Falls, or Bannock, which is where Pocatello is. So that's kind of gives you a map as to where we are. Crimes were allegedly committed here. We are here. It's about a 4-hour drive from Bonneville to Ada County. Maybe 3.5 if you're super fast. Okay, so this is where Lori Vallow lived in Rexburg when she moved there in October of 2019. A townhome right here where this star is. This is where Chad Daybell lived. 14-minute drive on a good day, about 9 miles. You could go this way, same way. Now, this is in Madison County. This Rexburg, as I mentioned, that's in Madison County. Where Chad Daybell lives, the border for Madison County and Fremont County is like right there. I think he lives 1 mile over the border. It's not very far. Had he lived like 1 mile this way, then everything would have been in Madison. But because he lived literally like 1 mile over the border into Fremont County, that is why you have two jurisdictions working on it. Lindsay Blake is the prosecutor for Fremont County. The kids were buried in Chad's backyard. Tammy Daybell died in that home. Chad Daybell is alleged to have killed all three of those people, and likely the alleged crimes happened here in Fremont County. However, if those kids were killed before they were buried, it could have been in Rexburg. And remember that the kids were originally reported missing in Rexburg, right here. So Rexburg started with it. The Rexburg police got the call. The Rexburg police went to her townhome. Rob Wood was the prosecutor, brand new prosecutor. He'd been the deputy, but he was the brand new prosecutor, like in the big shoes. He had gotten the call, or he had kind of launched this whole investigation. So the missing kid report is here in Rexburg. Chad Daybell lives kind of over the border in Fremont, and so that's kind of how both agencies joined in. Now, where does the Attorney General fit into this? Well, if you recall, early on in the investigation, the former prosecutor in Fremont County, Marcia Murdoch, asked the AG in Boise, where I'm at, to take the case. It was too much for the little county. The AG took the case, and then when Lindsay Blake was elected, she asked for it back. Now she's asked for additional assistance from the AG's office. So that's why you have Ingrid Beatty helping on the case. So you've got Rob Wood from Madison, Fremont County Attorney Lindsay Blake, and Ingrid Beatty from the Attorney General's office. And you have the assistant deputy, who is Rocky Wixom. You remember some of the attorneys from Lori Vallow's trial are no longer on the case. Rachel Smith stepped down in February. Tanya Rawlings was made a judge. Spencer Rammel, who's Rob Wood's deputy, isn't here. So it is a change. It is a change of attorneys and whatnot. But that's kind of how it all came to be. That's why we have it. Okay, so back to the map. I wanted to point this out because Idaho Falls came into the play during Lori Vallow's trial, and I imagine it will during Chad's. This is Chad Daybell's house. Again, the star at the top of your screen. This is Sportsman's Warehouse. Do you remember there was a lot of talk about Alex Cox going to Sportsman's Warehouse and buying ammo? There was photos he took inside Sportsman's Warehouse of ammunition. There's a Chick-fil-A right by this Sportsman Warehouse he stopped at and had a meal. From this house to Sportsman Warehouse, it's about a 37-minute drive. So just to give you an idea, Idaho Falls is here, Rexburg is here, St. Anthony is here. Okay, I hope that makes sense to so many of you who aren't from the area that have been like, what are all these places? There's all these characters, but what are all these places? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, I want to kind of shift gears here and focus on 2 or 3 pivotal months in late 2019. This is where kind of the building blocks of the case, the foundation, and a lot of things happened during these 2 or 3 months. I put this video together back in 2020, but I want to play it again for you tonight. So even though I say last year, I actually mean in 2019. This is what I'm talking about, but the information still holds. In fact, we know a lot more since I put this video together, but hopefully this lays the foundation for those of you who are kind of new to the case and want to know exactly what happened when and where. So here we go. We'll play this and then I'll talk about it on the other side. A lot happened in the Daybell investigation over the course of 8 weeks last fall. Crucial events occurred here in eastern Idaho during September and October that are key points in the investigation against Chad and Lori Daybell. Here's a closer look at the days, hours, even minutes that led up to where we are today. September 1st or 2nd, Lori Vallow moves into a townhouse on Pioneer Road in Rexburg with her brother, Alex Cox, and children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Neighbors told police they helped the family move in, and over the next few weeks, their son played with JJ multiple times. Alex eventually moved into his own unit at the same complex. 1 week later, September 8th, Lori, Alex, JJ, and Tylee go to Yellowstone. These photos were taken at the park, and it's the last time police can find any record of Tylee being with Lori. The next day, Monday, September 9th, police say Alex's phone was at Lori's apartment where the kids were staying from 2:42 a.m. until 3:37 a.m. Detectives say this is significant because it's the middle of the night and the only time in September Alex appears to go to Lori's house between midnight and 6 a.m. He goes back home at 4:37 a.m. and stays there until 8:59 a.m. 22 minutes later, he is located at Chad Daybell's property. At 9:21, a GPS data point places him at the east end of the barn on Chad's land. Alex appears to stay at the home for over 2 hours. Then at 11:52 a.m., he's located at Del Taco in Rexburg. 1 minute later, Chad texts Tammy, who's at work. He says he shot a raccoon and buried it in their pet cemetery. He tells his wife he's going to write at BYU. Tammy responds at 2:47 p.m. Good for you. To which Chad replies, I'm back home now. September 18th, a babysitter meets Lori and JJ. She tells police she understood her employment would be ongoing. She watches JJ the next day, September 19th. That's the same day Melanie Gibb and David Warwick visit Lori from Arizona. Lori immediately tells Melanie JJ has become a zombie. Sunday, September 22nd, Melanie and David tell police they saw JJ late that night as Alex was carrying him to his apartment. Alex later returned and JJ appeared to be asleep on his shoulder. The next day, Monday, September 23rd, David wakes up and asks Lori where JJ is. It's between 8 and 9 in the morning. Lori tells David and Melanie that JJ had been acting like a zombie, and Alex had come and taken him. During their weekend stay, Lori and Melanie discuss how Lori will be taking JJ to stay with Kay Woodcock, his grandmother, so Lori and Chad can complete their mission. David and Melanie leave Rexburg, and that day, JJ has an unexcused absence from Kennedy Elementary School. At 9:55 that same morning, the GPS on Alex's cell phone shows him near the pond on Chad Daybell's property. He's there until 10:12 a.m. This is one of 4 visits Alex makes to Chad's house in September. He stays for 12 minutes on September 6th, 2.5 hours on September 9th, 17 minutes on September 23rd, and around 17 minutes on September 25th. On September 24th, Lori contacts that babysitter and says JJ has gone to stay with his grandmother for several weeks and her services are no longer needed. Lori also calls Kennedy Elementary and says she will now be homeschooling JJ. 1 week later, on October 1st, Lori visits Self Storage Plus in Rexburg and signs an agreement to rent a unit using the name Lori Ryan. She, Alex, and a man we believe to be Chad Daybell visit the storage unit 8 more times in October and once in November. The next day, October 2nd, several things happen. Lori and a person we think is Chad drop off a tire and what appears to be a removable car seat at the unit. On the way out, Chad touches Lori's rear end. Meanwhile, in Arizona, Brandon Boudreaux, the ex-husband of Lori's niece, Melanie Pulowski, is shot at while driving home from the gym. A private investigator believes the shooter was Alex, and he was driving a Jeep registered to Charles Vallow. Also on this day, a size 4 sterling silver Southwestern style malachite gemstone is ordered on Charles Vallow's Amazon account. It's shipped to Lori's Rexburg home, and it's the same ring spotted in her wedding photos weeks later. On October 3rd, Lori returns to the storage facility with a different man, likely Alex, and they remove the tire and car seat from the locker. That day, family members tell me Chad was working outside and he came in to tell Tammy that Grandma Cooper had visited him. She told him Tammy needed to go see her parents in Springville, Utah. Tammy had told Chad earlier in the week that she wanted to see her family, but he was hesitant to go. She never traveled by herself, always with Chad or with the children. But after Chad told her about this visitation, she got in the car the next day, on October 4th, and drove to Springville. That evening, she had dinner with her parents and spent the night at her sister's home. She woke up the next morning around 9 and drove back to Rexburg. Tammy returned October 5th, and 4 days later, on October 9th, she reported pulling into her driveway, getting out of the car, and a man in a ski mask came up and shot at her several times with a paintball gun. He took off and she called the cops. They believed it was a prank and the man was never found. On Saturday, October 19th, Tammy suddenly died in her sleep. Her funeral was 3 days later in Springville, Utah. Chad left quickly and returned to Rexburg, where a memorial was held the next day. October 25th, a friend of Tylee reports getting a text message from her phone that said, "Hi, miss you guys too, love ya." 10 days after that supposed text message, Tylee's mother, Lori Vallow, married Chad Daybell on the beaches of Hawaii. None of their family members or friends were there, and thus began a new phase of the investigation. I'm Nate Eaton, EastIdahoNews.com. Okay, there you go. So, again, a lot happened in that period of time, and we are going to learn more during the trial about all the things that were also happening. In fact, we did learn more. I'll have to do another video after the fact. So I hope that answered many of your questions that you had. Okay, I want to get to your questions and a couple of shout outs. Before we do that, though, I have to show you this photo of Charles and JJ and Tylee that somebody sent to me. They're all dressed in white. They're at the beach. I imagine that was in Hawaii. I tried to get some background on the picture, but I don't know much more than that. I just wanted to share it with you. JJ, I don't know. What do you think? He was probably 4 or 5 there. Just a beautiful looking family there on the beach. And so tonight we remember them along with Tammy Daybell and her family and JJ Vallow and Tylee's family. I know that Larry and Kay Woodcock are in town or will be here shortly, and they will be in court this week. They weren't here last week for jury selection, but they should be in court this week. And also, I did mention last week, I want to clarify, someone asked about the Daybell family, if they're supporting Chad as far as his children and whatnot. His brother, Matt Daybell, and his wife, Heather, have come out and publicly issued statements saying they do not support him, his teachings, any of that. Heather Daybell was subpoenaed, and so she will be, she could be called as a witness, or she might not be. That's the problem. If you get a subpoena, you might get called and you might not. You just don't know till the time comes. So that is what, that's where things stand tonight. Okay, let me get to your questions, but before we do that, let me do some shout outs. Tony Dudson in the UK. Tony, thank you for being here. Joyce DeBolt, Doris May, the Finnish girl from Finland. What time is it in Finland? Joanna DeChaney. I hope I said that right, Joanna. Amanda Richardson. Hi. Carol Atkin. Paisley Jones. Lainey Bean. Hi, Lainey. Megan Hopkins. Denise Gray. Derek Clark is in central UK. Good to see you. Alexandria Iwa, Poland. And Rachel Alvarez. Thank you all for watching, no matter where you're from. I truly appreciate it. Okay, here's some questions. From Dawn. I've noticed throughout this and the previous case that you continue to return to Rob Wood of Madison County as the lead prosecutor when in fact it is a Fremont County case. I don't know if you do this because of your friendship with Rob or if you are just sexist. Women can be lead prosecutors too. You're right, Don, they can. And I'm not really friends with Rob. We know each other, but Rob was the lead prosecutor in the other case. He was the lead. That's what it was. In this case, Lindsay is the lead prosecutor. So that's why I referred to him, if I did, as the lead. Also, he was the one that started this, as I explained a minute ago. He was the lead then, but Lindsay is leading this one, Lindsay Blake. So I will try to make that more clear. Piper, do they get to be let out for the solar eclipse? We were talking about that a minute ago. No, we don't. It's at 10 tomorrow. I don't think maybe Boise gets 15% coverage or something. I don't think we really see anything. The path is clearly along another part. I do believe if we were in the full totality, that they wouldn't schedule it, that tomorrow would be an off day. That's kind of what they did in 2017 when Idaho had the totality. It went through eastern Idaho, like everything was closed. It was really cool. Martha, why are there two prosecutors for Chad's trial from two different counties? Well, I kind of explained that hopefully earlier. I started watching and listening to all of Lori Vallow's trial. Some of the episodes say Lori Vallow, others say Lori Daybell. Are they legally married, and why both names? That is a great question. So I want to show you, I believe I have the marriage certificate showing that Chad and Lori actually did legally get married. Let me just look here. So because of that, it started when they went missing, that it was Lori Vallow Daybell. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. Let me see if I have it here. If I don't, I know we've had it at one point, I believe. Here we go. I'm going to try to make this big. So, and this ties in. So this was a story we did back in 2021. Attorney files motions insisting Lori Vallow Daybell be called by her legal married name. Here's the Hawaii. Chad Guy Daybell was married to Lori Noreen Ryan Vallow. And this was dated in Kauai, November 5th, 2019. And accepted by the state registrar on November 7th of 2019. So yes, they were indeed married legally, and her attorney insisted in all the documents that she be called Lori Vallow Daybell, and we would call any other alleged criminal by their full name. However, as the trial went on, people went back and forth between Vallow and Daybell. Honestly, reporting wise, it would have been much simpler had they never been legally married. We could call her Vallow and him Daybell, but because they're both Daybells, that's what we went by. We've called her Lori Vallow Daybell. I go back and forth and intersperse the names sometimes, but they were and are still legally married. They have not divorced. Holly from New Zealand. Hi, I've been following since the kids came up missing. Can you please do in your YouTube live, show us a map of what Idaho looks like? Hey, there we go. In regards to the location of the courthouses and jails and Chad's house. I hope that helped. Where it was, and as far as where his house was in location to the jail, it's like 2 miles away, the jail he was in Fremont County. But here, it's quite a ways away, 4 hours. Eldon and Vicky, in Chad's trial, there is a point you have made several times that confuses us. I'm sorry about that. On the one hand, your updates talk about the judge and both sets of attorneys talking about Chad and Lori. Chad is in the courtroom. Yet in Courtroom Insider, we've heard several times that the potential jurors will hear for the first time on Monday that this trial is about Chad Daybell. Do jurors know if they are there for Chad's trial or not? Okay, let me clarify. The jurors did not know before they got to the courthouse. When they filled out that questionnaire, they did not know that it was for Chad Daybell's trial. But when they got to the courthouse on their day to be called in the group for questioning, that's when they found out that it was Chad's case. Yes, he was in the courtroom. They walked in the courtroom and saw him. Now, most of them didn't know who he was, but he was there. So they didn't know filling out those questionnaires that it was him, at least based on what the questionnaires are sealed. I haven't seen the questionnaires, but Tom Evans, the juror in the Vallow case, said when he filled out the questionnaire, he did not know that it was for Lori Vallow's case, but they ask about your thoughts about murder and things like that. And they probably ask a question about, like, have you heard of the Chad and Lori Vallow Daybell case? And if you put yes, how much do you know? But they don't officially know it's him until they showed up last week. So once they see him, yeah, they know that's what the case is for. And they're explained that when they walk in the courtroom, the judge tells them, this is the case of Chad Daybell. So they will know. Everyone that shows up tomorrow will know that it's for that case. I hope that makes sense. What made you want to be a reporter? Please don't leave East Idaho News and go to a big place unless it's to work with Keith on Dateline. Oh, that'd be fun. I could go work with Keith and do Dateline. I wanted to be a reporter since I was 12. Always curious in the news. Started in 2006. So I've been doing this 18 years now. And I have no plans to leave East Idaho News. I did television for 9 years, moved back to Idaho, and helped launch East Idaho News, and here I am. If I ever did leave East Idaho News, it would be to do like in-depth stuff, like a Dateline type of show, or I don't want to go back to like daily news just on the local TV news. That I'm kind of over that. Why hasn't Melanie Gibb been called to testify or charged with conspiracy? Well, she did testify in Lori's trial. She did, and she'll probably testify in this one. I would bet on it. I don't know why she hasn't been charged with conspiracy, but it could be that she has a lot of information and the prosecutors need her, perhaps. And so a lot of times they'll grant people immunity, or they'll say, you know, you better tell us what you know. And so I don't know. There might have been enough there for a conspiracy charge, or maybe not. That'd be a question for the prosecutor. I've tried to ask before. I think when the trial's over, I'll be able to get more answers, and hopefully I can tell you then. Leanne asks, Chad Daybell has a front on it so we can't see his feet. Are his ankles shackled? No. And I looked the other day for that. They were not, and he wasn't in handcuffs. Now, Lori Vallow, I don't believe she had the leg shackles on until the actual trial portion. I don't think she had them on during jury selection, but I wasn't in there. It seemed like it was a few days in that they put them on. So I don't know if she will if he will for the next little time, but I'll let you know. Suzanne says, does the jury dress up during trial? They can wear whatever they want. They could not wear the East Idaho News hoodie. That would be bad. But some jurors dress up really nice. I don't think I saw any of them in a tie during Vallow's trial, but some wear t-shirts and shorts. It's just whatever. Idaho's kind of more lax. When I worked in Virginia, we couldn't like chew gum in the courtroom. And that could be an issue. Let me go back, and maybe one other thing I just thought of with the Melanie Gibb. Why hasn't she been charged? I guess it would depend on how much evidence they actually have. Solid evidence. If you're just talking with someone, can you charge someone to just talk with someone? Probably not. But if, they wrote it down or whatever, it might just be there. You'd have to maybe encourage someone to commit the crime or force them to, or something like that. That might be a good question, though, down the line. I mean, I know so many of you have asked not just about Melanie Gibb, but about Melanie Pulowski. Why hasn't she been charged? And that might be the same thing. And again, maybe when it's all over, we can ask for certain clarifications about that. Okay, a couple more questions here. Caitlin, does Chad also get a say on what jurors he wants? Oh, I would imagine that he would consult with John Pryor. I'm sure they're both. I'm sure that, I don't know, I haven't asked because we're not allowed to talk. There's a gag order. But other attorneys I've talked to say when they go to jury trials, they have their key list of people they really want. And then kind of the B or C people, and then the D's, like the ones they don't want. And I'm sure Pryor and Chad might say, I really like this one, or they might go back and forth. Or maybe he just says to his attorneys, whatever, I don't care. So it'll be fascinating to see which ones what they come up with and how they decide to do it. There has been that one juror in there, like I said, Tom, who's come almost every day, and he plans to be there a lot. So it's interesting to sit by him and kind of get his insight and see how he looks at them, at the jurors as they talk. Amy, is it too late to have Chad add an attorney? Interesting. I talked about this the other night, that an attorney from Mountain Home, Idaho, filed a motion a week ago Friday to intervene and continue the trial, meaning he filed a motion as a non-party. He's not associated with the case. He wants to intervene on the case and have it continued or delayed. We found out about this. By the way, the judge then immediately sealed the motion. So we haven't seen it. But our attorney, who last year fought to get cameras in the courtroom on behalf of the media, our attorney got CC'd or copied on this motion. So she reached out to us saying, do you know what this is about? We didn't. We found out that the guy is, I forget his name. He's from Northern Idaho, or not Northern Idaho. He's from Mountain Home, which is about 45 minutes away from here. We don't know if he's filing the motion to try to get added to the defense team. We don't know why he's filing the motion. He is death penalty certified. Could be a last minute plea, but I don't think the judge is, I can't imagine the judge allowing an attorney on last minute because you think that they have to delay so that the attorney could get caught up to speed on everything. So I don't know, that would be a crazy move if that happened. I wish I could have an attorney here every night to help answer some of these because I don't have a law degree. Diana, will this jury be sequestered? The jury will be sequestered. If Chad Daybell is found guilty, they will then go into sequestration and while they deliberate the sentence, whether it's going to be life in prison or death. And that was stressed and emphasized during jury selection for several people who said, I'm fine during the 8-week trial, but if there's 2 weeks of deliberating on his sentence, like young moms were like, I can't be away from my baby. I remember one woman in particular, she said, my 5-year-old doesn't have a nap if I'm not with him. So yeah, they'll be sequestered and they'll be in a hotel and they'll be in a room and they won't be able to leave. I guess they can go to the bathroom, but they can't like leave and go to a restaurant or anything. They have to stay there and they can't watch media about the trial. I mean, it's till they choose a selection. It's really hard. Sequestration is really hard and really expensive. Now that you've seen the death penalty are more or less Indy says, now that you've seen the jury pool are more or less for the death penalty. That's a good question. Let me look at my notes. I think it was, I would say more are in support of it. There's a few so-sos, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, just a quick glance at my notes. More support it, but all of them, every single one that supported it, when Judge Boyce said, this says that you support the death penalty, but would you be willing to follow the instruction and rules given to you by the court? They all said yes. And all of them, he said, do you believe death penalty should be given in every case where first-degree murder is committed? They all said no. In fact, I don't recall one person the entire week when asked that question saying, yes, I do think that in every case of first-degree murder, there should be a death penalty. I don't think that they did. So I would say more in support. There were some very adamant people, though, opposed to it. Very adamant. And those people that were extremely opposed did not get on the jury. But some people that oppose it are on there. We could do a whole show on the death penalty and get for and against people on there. Okay, 3 more questions. Gail asks if Chad's parents will be present. I don't know. I have not heard if they will. It's possible they were subpoenaed as well. I've spoken with a few of his other family members off the record, and as far as I know, I don't think any will be there like in support of Chad. Debbie says, how did Judge Boyce get involved? Judge Boyce is a district judge, and the state of Idaho, that map I showed you earlier, is broken up into districts. I think there's 9 districts. And so his district is over Rexburg. He handles all felonies that happen in Rexburg, unless he has a conflict of interest or he's too busy. So he used to be a defense attorney, and I think he lived in Idaho Falls. And then he put his name in for this judge position. Before him, it was Judge Moeller, who is now a Supreme Court justice in the state of Idaho. Before him, it was Judge Moss, who passed away. And they were well-known judges, and now it's Judge Boyce. And so he didn't pick the case. He wasn't really assigned to it. I guess he kind of was, but it happened in his jurisdiction. And he's over Rexburg and St. Anthony, Fremont County, and Teton County, which is out by Driggs. He is presiding over on this other case, the Jeremy Best case, which you remember Rachel Smith, the prosecutor for Lori Vallow's case, the special prosecutor who's like done 100+ special cases, death penalty and whatnot. She's pretty smart. She is now on the Jeremy Best case. He's the man who had a psychiatric break, and he went into a convenience store right after Thanksgiving, or before, I think it was right after, naked, completely naked. He ran around the convenience store. The police were called. He was taken to the hospital. He was admitted. He was released, and a few hours later, he shot his pregnant wife to death. His wife and the child, the unborn child, died. He then took the baby, their toddler, the most adorable kid, Zeke, took the toddler in their SUV and took off. And an Amber Alert was issued for all of Idaho, and they found the toddler. They found Jeremy Best. That happened late on a Thursday. Early Saturday morning, they found Jeremy Best in a real remote area outside of Idaho Falls where hunters were. A hunter found him. He was naked. He was in a sleeping bag. He got in the car and basically said to the hunter, I killed my wife and my toddler, and they found baby Zeke, and his throat had been cut and he was dead. Just a horrific, horrific crime. Well, Rachel Smith's on that case with Bailey Smith, another prosecutor from Teton County, and Judge Boyce is the judge. And the defense attorney for Jeremy Best is Jim Archibald, and it's a death penalty case. So that's a whole nother thing happening in our neck of the woods too. So that's how Judge Boyce got involved. I wish I could answer your question shorter. Mariana says, why didn't they hurt Chad's youngest child, but they hurt Lori's youngest? Well, I don't know. Chad's children were not quite as young as Lori's. I think his youngest was on a mission, so he would have been 19, 20-ish in South Africa. And Chad's, from everything I've seen and everything I've heard, his children never made the dark list, never had zombies in them, nothing like that. It was Lori's kids that did. So I don't know why that's the case, but that's what happened. All right, those are some really good questions. You all are so smart. You can keep sending them in. I'll try to answer as many as I can. So tomorrow night we'll be back here 6:30 Mountain Time to discuss the final jury, the male count, the female count, men and women. I've got all the juror numbers here, and I kind of have a little description about each one. You know, what they do for their profession, if they wear glasses or not, things like that. We'll have a look at what this jury will be, and then we'll find out when opening statements will be. We just know they're not tomorrow. The judge has said the only thing happening tomorrow is the jury selection. Then they'll all head home and get their orders, their everything in order, because they're going to be spending the next 8 weeks of their life, or 10, at a courthouse every day. And there's a lot to take care of when you have such a sudden shift in life. But hope you'll stay tuned. Appreciate you watching. Let us know again where you're watching from as this goes on for the next few weeks. And we'll see you back here tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Have a good night.